Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so very honored and absolutely delighted that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, their principal, their guidance counselor, the librarian, their youth minister, and let them all know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, CastBox, Audible, Player FM, Boomplay, Ghana, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have a really special show for you today. First up, my amazing intern, Raylene Tang, will be here to chat with Brad Mason. He is celebrating his brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. It's called Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy. Later in the show, Morenike Oyenusi will be here to celebrate her new book, Primary Colors. And we have a treat. We have a special preview or a listen back to a segment of our conversation with Candace Cameron Bure back in 2018. Hey, my friends, we are really excited. Reading with Your Kids podcast is returning to the Chicago Toy and Game Fair November 9th and 10th at the Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. Let your imagination come to life at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, the ultimate family play experience. Dive into hands-on fun with the hottest new toys and games, meet the inventors behind your favorite products, and even get a sneak peek at what will top holiday wish list this year. From interactive play zones to exciting competitions and exclusive giveaways, there's something for every member of the family at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair. And don't miss the Young Inventor Challenge, where kids showcase their creativity and innovation. Who knows? You just might meet the next big inventor. Join us at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois, November 9th and 10th. Whether you're a game enthusiast or just looking for a fun weekend with the family, the Chicago Toy and Game Fair has it all. And like I said, the Reading with Your Kids podcast will be there, and you may have a chance to be heard on the show. Get your tickets today and bring the magic of play to life. Visit shytag.com for details, and be sure to use the discount code READ, R-E-A-D, at checkout to save on tickets. Hey, are you ready to ignite a passion for reading in your students? Introducing bookandauthor.com, your gateway to literacy connections. With bookandauthor.com, connecting your school with talented authors of captivating kids' books has never been easier. Simply visit our user-friendly website and explore our extensive database of authors. Filter your search based on budget, genre, and availability. Discover the perfect match for your school and your students. But that's not all. With bookandauthor.com, you have the power to request a proposal. Let vetted authors come to you with their tailored ideas, ensuring an unforgettable literacy experience for your students. Don't wait any longer to inspire young minds through the magic of books. Visit bookandauthor.com today and open the door to a world of literacy connections. Bookandauthor.com, where literacy comes to life. Hey, parents and educators, are you looking for a fun way to help kids understand their feelings? Check out Felipe the Feeling Frog from the Caring Critter series, written by Zeba McGibbon. In this engaging book, Felipe explores his neighborhood and learns that there are no bad feelings, just easy and hard ones that need the right strategies for self-regulation. Perfect for kids ages 4 to 7, Felipe the Feeling Frog teaches essential emotional regulation skills through captivating and relatable stories, as well as adorable illustrations by Denise Walker. Written by a dedicated kindergarten teacher, Felipe the Feeling Frog shows children that all feelings are okay, but it's how we manage them that matters. Felipe and his friends model different emotions and strategies, making it easy for kids to learn and apply these skills. Don't miss this valuable resource for social and emotional learning. And stay tuned for more from the Caring Critters series, including the upcoming Trixie the Thoughtful Turtle. Grab your copy of Felipe the Feeling Frog today and help your child navigate their emotions with a smile. Join us right now from beautiful Southern California. Our guest is returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate his new book. It's called Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy. It has been named a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Please welcome to the show, Brad Mason. Hey, Brad, how are you?
Doing great. It's good to be back. Book number 1 came out in January. Charlie Chaloosy is often quite choosy, followed by October release of Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy. So as I was chatting with you right before we got on live here, that I guess second book makes it a series. So 2 in the midst of many, many more to follow.
Absolutely. Also joining us, and also in Southern California, is my incredibly talented intern, Raylene Tang. Hey, Raylene.
Hi, Jed. Hi, everybody.
Brad, tell us all about Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It is book number 2, as I mentioned in the series, and my focus really is on just kind of those universal childhood things that kids can identify with, and quite frankly, parents and grandparents and anybody that has little ones in their life have always fought the battle. In this case, for this book, I don't want to take a nap. And so Charlie is a conscientious objector when it comes to nap time when mom wants to send him. But what he realizes in the book is that the dreams are a wonderful, magical, mystical place where you can kind of be transported to adventures and doing things. And he realizes by giving up naps, he's giving up something he's not willing to give up, which is that wonderful, just kind of imaginary land that only happens when you sleep and dream. And so by the end of the story, don't worry, don't fret. He makes peace with nap time, and he realizes the value to just be able to play and run and have the energy a little guy or little gal needs. And he returns to the magical world of dreaming.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with Charlie, because man, I love naps. The older I get,
there is a fulcrum or a crossing point that when you fall in love with naps, you're officially an old person. And so I am a card carrying old person. And so Charlie wasn't so convinced at the beginning, but he got there.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, I was having a nap last week. We're babysitting for my daughter's dog. He is a big, strong, nothing but muscle, not a pit bull, even though he looks exactly like a pit bull, but wink, wink. And I was in that magical place where you're not completely asleep, but you're drifting, and the music was on, and it was so comforting. I just loved it. And then someone opened up a car door outside, and the dog started barking, scared the life out of me. I fell off the couch.
And it's all gone. That magical, mystical place that you were going to, it's just, hard stop, return to reality.
Yeah, there's no more at all. Raylene, this isn't something you have to worry about. You know, you're not an old person yet.
Yeah, I'm not in love with a nap yet. Not yet. So maybe
not to that threshold. She has not reached the peak. So welcome to adulthood sometime in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely. Brad, we were talking, Raylene and I were talking to another guest earlier this morning, and we're talking about the fact that it seems like the kids don't use their imaginations. They don't have to use their imaginations these days because there are so many screens, and they don't have a chance to be bored. It's almost as if dreaming is the only time a lot of kids' imaginations are ignited.
Yeah, I completely concur. And so we are, again, I'd mentioned previous when we had spoken, I have 6 little grandchildren, 5, 4, 3, 3, one that just turned one on September 2nd, and another one that's 10 months. And so we are hard and fast committed to with their parents to just, it's about playing, it's about outdoors, it's about, every now and then we can have a treat to just kind of veg and kind of escape and, kind of watch something. But it just feels like our kids' brains are in neutral too much and everything's being done for them. And I mean, growing up, we needed a trash can lid, a field, and some dirt clods, and we were going to go have, a battle for all afternoon. And again, the cliche come in when the streetlights come on. But I completely agree, and that's why as I write the books that I write, I put in the back. In the first book, Charlie was stuck and didn't like trying new things, and so I asked the children to pick one new thing they'd like to try, and there was a blank page for them to write about that thing, and then a blank page in the back of the book to draw a picture. On this one, they're asked to pick one dream they would like to have, and then illustrate that and show what it looks like. And I'm a firm believer that listening to stories and reading stories, sometimes there's a passivity that can come into that. And so though I love the reading, I want to take them next level, next step, and get them writing, imagining, and putting their stories down on pages. And I'm a superintendent by day, but when I go out to schools and share in assemblies and share the books and share my passion for children's literature and writing and illustrating, it is really for me to give them permission and invite them into the storytelling, because we've all got stories to tell. We just don't often have the platforms to share them. And I did a little book tour this summer at 10 different Barnes and Nobles around Southern California and met children, young and old, who say, well, I kind of write, but I've never really shared with anybody, or parents that, I've always had this story in my head. I met one father a week or so ago. His name's Roman, and his son had an accident as a 3-year-old and ended up deaf and had a cochlear implant. And I was asking about that, and the dad had said, he just kind of pulled me aside as I was selling and signing books, that he'd thought about co-writing a book with his son. His son's a kindergartner now, just telling that story to just kind of help normalize it, because there will be another little dewdrop someday where this happens to, and it's just tell the story. And I gave him my card, and I just said, I want to hear from you in a week. I said, you need to go from to do to done. And the funny thing is, this book will not write itself, but it's pent up in your mind, and you kind of owe it to humanity to tell the story. And so he left encouraged. And when I go to assemblies and talk with TK through 5th graders, I want to leave with more engaged readers and more inspired writers. And that's kind of, that flame has been fanned in me as a young 57-year-old author. And I just want to give it to future generations to don't just read my stuff. I want to read your stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're encouraging that dad and that dad and son writing team. Who inspired you to pick up pen and create this series?
Told the story last time we were together, but a buddy of mine owns a publishing company back in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Yorkshire Publishing. And he sent me, because I'm Dr. Brad Mason, he wanted my name on the back of somebody else's book to just endorse. And Jed, thank you, by the way, for joining me on this book and endorsing it. And I started reading, and I just felt this profound weight that this book is okay, but it could be better. And I felt it could be better in these ways. And so he wanted a sentence to endorse it, and I gave him a ton of feedback, and he jokingly just said, hey, do you want to be an editor? And I thought, absolutely not. And then he just said, you've got all these strong feelings and opinions and ideas, and we've known each other for decades. And he's like, your mind works in kind of crazy, wonderful ways. And why don't you think about doing this? And I'm like, well, when I get around to retiring, maybe I will. And he's like, what prevents you from just starting now? And I think the thing that prevented from starting me now was the encouragement from someone and the challenge to do it. So in the same way that I was that person for Roman and his son about a week ago, Kent Denmark was that for me. And I live in Southern California, got about an hour and a half commute home. And so Charlie Chaloosy was born in my mind that night driving home. Got started, that was a Friday, got started writing that weekend and haven't stopped since, and am in love with the process.
That's wonderful. And I got to tell you, I wanted to mention this. I am, as we say here in Boston, I'm wicked impressed that you were able to rattle off the ages of your grandkids. That was,
yeah, we live about a mile and a half away from all of them, so they are ever present in my world. So, yeah.
That's really great. And it's very unusual. Now, I grew up like that. I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody on both sides of my family lived within 5 or 6 city blocks of each other. It was wonderful. It was also annoying because I couldn't do anything wrong without getting caught.
Yeah, it's getting back to mom before you get home.
Exactly. And they all the adults had license to whack me in the back of the head if they saw me do something wrong.
Yeah.
But we don't hear of that often. So I'm very, happy that you're lucky enough to have that.
We are blessed. I don't know how people that are listening account for riches, but for me, it's children and grandchildren, and just the ability to, we're on this planet for such a short amount of time. Our ability to pour into the lives of a next generation is nothing short of just a miracle and a blessing. So I am wealthy in that.
Brad, you shared with us that you're superintendent of a school district, and so you are with kids all the time, and you're with adults who are helping kids all the time. One of the things that I'm really, we're really concerned about is all the anxiety that we hear the kids are experiencing these days. Really young kids. Any idea or any thoughts as to why we're seeing this increase? Is it just that we're noticing it more, or is there something going on?
Again, me as the societal observer, armchair quarterback, I think there are things going on, and teaching all of the little kids. We have a pool in my house, and I mentioned all the youth, the youngness of all of my grandbabes, and one of our big tasks is getting them to be safe in the pool. And one of the things that I point out to each of them as we get in the pool and we're starting to learn to swim is that where is the safety? And the safety in a pool, even for little kids, they can't stand in the shallow end. So the safety are the steps, the safety are the edges, and the safety are the stairs. And so if you find yourself out swimming in the sea of the pool that you can't touch, how do you get out of this? Is you get to a seat, you get to a stair, or you get to a side. And those are your anchors that allow you to be safe in a pool. Treading water is fine, but you can't do it indefinitely. And those things in society are like absolute truths. And Jed, you talked about when you were a kid, there were just some things. There were some rights and some wrongs that auntie and uncle and grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and whoever, we all kind of sign up that we are going to agree that these are things that we hold true and we aspire to and are important. And in a society where we're trying to give up those absolutes and, you live your way, I live my way, everybody lives their way. When you give up those, it's almost like taking away the steps, the stairs, and the sides of the pool, and kids are just swimming, trying to make sense of this. And maybe I'm old school, but I really do believe in some absolute humanity truths that are generalizable to everybody. And if you take that away from children and they're left to just kind of literally swim on their own in society, it creates a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I imagine it does. Raylene, do you have any questions for Brad?
Yeah, sure. I just love the safety point you bring about children, because a lot of people right now, they are thinking about entertainment and how to have fun with their kids, but safety is also like the first priority of life. And besides reading together, which I imagine for sure you will have like good bad story time with bedtime story, with your grandchildren. But like besides reading together, do you have any other suggestions for family activities to share a happy moment?
Yeah, I think it takes very little more than attention for a child to feel valued, to feel loved, and to feel important. And my wife and I, and we are also, so unique that the other sets of grandparents also live within kind of Jed, like you said, in that we're literally in about a mile radius with all the grandparents and all the grandkids on both sides. And we're just so intentional about spending time with them and talking with them and listening to them and doing lots of group things, but also really prioritizing one-on-one time because Dawson, Addison, Teddy, Annika, Monty and Avery all need to know how special, unique, and wonderful they are. And that can get lost in a crowd. And so you can have fun as a group, but you can really have such special, intentional time when you just go on, grandma and granddaddy, dates with each of them and just cherish them and let them know how unique and special they are. And it could be getting ice cream, going to eat, playing at the park, just having them over to bake with them, whatever. They love it all. Yeah. They love it all. It's time. Time is the commodity that they long for, not stuff.
Those are really good activities. And like spending time together is always warm. And I believe it's so cool for your grandchildren to have a grandpa who wrote book for children. And I think that would be a brag in your school.
Yeah, it's super fun. I'm trying to think of a way that I can possibly, as I continue to write, maybe find a way for each of them to help me on subsequent books in the future, and then just kind of written by Brad Mason and Dawson Green and Addison Mason, and just to give them the gift, because someday what they're going to have is that book, and
yes.
The book will outlive me.
You have natural sources near your life. You have the at the moment sources. You don't have to interview other kids because you have so many loved.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a screening group. I've got a Nielsen family to just tell me, I don't like that. Keep writing, keep working on it. So yeah, they all love Charlie Chaloosy.
That's so good. And as Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snooze is the #2 book in your series, can you share one point that you found most special about this story, like the #2 book in the series?
Yeah, I think it's just, you can have an imposter system, and it's, thing where you just feel like, well, I wrote a book, but, am I really an author? And, a book #2 kind of confirms it. And Charlie Chaloosy goes on a cruisy. Charlie Chaloosy ends up with a bruisey. Charlie Chaloosy comes down with the floozy. I mean, I've got other ones already kind of in the queue, ready to go, that are either written or at least dancing around in my head. And it's just a fun gift to give other people. And if it can provide any comfort or encouragement to a little love, I mean, just the perfect picture for me is a little one, kind of in the lap of a mom or a dad or a grandma or a grandpa with their chubby little hands and, chubby little, dimpled knuckles holding this book and getting some level of comfort or enjoyment out of it. Man, that gets me stoked to keep writing.
Yeah. I love that. Again, going back to your place in education, one of the questions, and I don't know if I asked you this, but when I started the podcast, I was sitting down talking to my beautiful wife, who was a teacher in Boston for 34 years, and her best friend, who was an administrator. And I said, I have a feeling that the people who are listening to Reading with Your Kids, they already read with their kids.
Sure.
They appreciate literature. They appreciate how important it is to help kids become literate. How can we reach out to those families who aren't already reading with their kids?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to be in next week at a family literacy night, and sometimes what the author reads that I've been to an assembly, again, kudos to your wife for 34 years. I'm starting my 35th year, so I've got her beat. So, just, hung one more rung on the ladder. And sometimes the focus is, hey, we're having this person in that did this thing, that wrote this book, and they're going to come read it to us, and they'll sell them or sign them, or they'll do this, that, or the other. I'm really trying to develop more engaged readers. And when I do parent literacy nights, and I've done multiple now, and again, this school year is just getting back going. And so we'll be starting next week back with that, is really teaching parents to be intentional in their reading with kids, that it's not just start the story and get to the end and, we can read 2 stories and it's time to go to bed. What do you observe from the illustration? What do you observe from the title? What do you think's going through Charlie's mind when he's observing the other kids play? And then the next page, he's watching the kids, or he's fussing with his mom about naps. Why do you think I ask you to do things sometimes that you don't like? And just engage the kids. And have you ever had a dream? Have you ever tried something you didn't like? What were you feeling? What were you experiencing? And then those pages at the end of the story are really the story's not done when you read the last word. The story is now just taking off when you ask the child to pick one new thing, write about it, and illustrate it. And I tell parents and kids, when you've added to my book and you've got your writing in it and you've got your illustration, do you know what that makes you? It makes you an author. And I want this to be the first of countless books that you write and stories that you tell, and just encouraging parents to be more engaged in the reading. We get tired as parents when our kids are young. I mean, you may have an 8-hour day and it turns into a 24-hour day when you get home and you're still engaged with your kids, but they don't clock out, and so you're always on. So how can we make the most? We can spend time, invest time, or waste time. The technology and the screen time is kind of that wasting of time. Investing in time is how are you building confidence and character and discipline and dreams into your kids? And it can happen easily through children's literature, but you have to approach it with the thought that how can I take this story and leverage it to be a lesson and engage in discussion with your kids. So it's really, Jed, reading and discussing with your kids. I know it's too much of a mouthful, but in my mind, how do we make that transition and tectonic shift? It's we engage as parents and we lead our kids through a process of picking apart and analyzing and being thoughtful consumers of the things that we read.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about here on the show is how empowering it is for a kid when the most important person in your life decides to sit down and spend 20 minutes reading, shutting off the phone, shutting out the world, and not only reading with you, but they're also this important person is asking me what I think. Mm-hmm. Asking me what's going to happen next. And I think you're showing the kid that, hey, I care about you. I respect you. I love you. I want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah. And you're so good at analyzing this. You would be a great writer. So what would be one thing that you'd like to try, and then just encourage them? And a lot of the things that get in the way of children trying something new is the confidence that they can do it. And if you build that, not self-esteem, you're great just because I say so, but you're great for these reasons. That was a wonderful insight. That was a great idea. What do you think else can happen? And when I go and I do these assemblies with kids, I start orally kind of walking them through a scenario of a new story. And then I get to a point and just stop. And then I ask them to reflect back on what might be next? What might this character be feeling? And we're writing a story. And so I take them through, character setting, kind of the plot, the rise of action, and then we'd go to the resolution. And are there any themes that we want to teach? And in the time that I'm with them in an assembly, the kind of 3rd through 5th grade, the youngers are a little too young. We've written a story and it's just like what we just did in 45 minutes. You can do time and time and time again. And it's really giving them the gift of you've got great ideas in your head. You owe it to the world to get them out.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, we owe it to our audience to let them know where they can go to find out more about Charlie Chaloosy, Refuses to Snoozy. You can certainly go to readingwithyourkids.com and click our blog and read our entire review of the book. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read, but where's your website?
Yeah, it is at charliechaloosy.com. Charlie with an I-E and Chaloosy with 2 O's, S-Y. So charliechaloosy.com. Book is going to be out in October through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, certainly available online. Some of the first book are in some Barnes & Nobles throughout Southern California, and I'm still just getting started. This book will be the second one out, and this is my first year of being a children's author, and I'm still just getting started.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy, Book 2 in the Charlie Chaloosy series, our guest has been Brad Mason. Brad, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Great seeing you again, and nice meeting you as well.
It's a good time to meet you. Thank you.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Hey there, families! Are you looking for an exciting way to bond and learn together? Look no further than our STEM is Family Fun video series. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of STEM through hands-on activities right in your own home. Our series features lessons from experts at renowned institutions like the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, the National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C., and Children's Museum Houston. From making homemade rainbow bridges to creating an oboe out of a straw, there's something for everyone in the family to enjoy. So grab your lab coats and get ready for an adventure. Go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the STEM is Family Fun link at the top of the page and let the learning and laughter begin. STEM is Family Fun, where learning and bonding go hand in hand. We have a treat for you tonight. Our guest is returning to the podcast to celebrate her brand new children's book. It's called The Primary Colors. Please welcome back Morenike Oyenusi. My friend, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Jed. It's so nice to be back on your show.
Thank you. Yes, Morenike and I had the pleasure of meeting each other in the real world, as the kids say, out at the Indie Authors Summit. And what a great time we all had.
Yes, it was fantastic.
One of the things that I'm really amazed about, and it's so wonderful, and it's probably what kept me working on the podcast, especially in the early years when we didn't have authors begging to be on the show and we didn't have advertisers. It was the friendship and the kinship that I felt in the kidlit community. People are very, very supportive of one another.
And I totally agree with that. And which is why when I met you in person, it was almost as if I'd already met you. Seriously, we've had conversations, I've been on the podcast a couple of times and we've exchanged emails and messages. We've seen each other on social media. So I just really felt as if I knew you.
It was a wonderful experience, and I'm so excited to have you tell us all about The Primary Colors.
So The Primary Colors is my fourth book, and it's a picture book for children ages 3 to 8. And it's about a community of primary colors. Everyone is red, yellow, or blue. And, they're living a normal life. It's normal for them to all be red, yellow, or blue. And our hero of the story, Cobalt Blue, he's having a good time, but he thinks things are a little bit boring. And then one day he overhears his parents talking about a monster who might be coming to town. And then, so he's really puzzled and taken aback, and he runs off to tell his friends. And then a new family moves into the neighborhood, and they're unlike anything anyone has ever seen before. So the story is about their experience with this new family and with this monster approaching.
Wow. I'm very, very intrigued. Now, are you able to tell us what's so different about this new family?
So they're different color.
Uh-huh.
This community, this primary color community is, as I say, everybody's red, yellow, blue, and this new family moves in. And, I guess I'm sort of giving away some of the story, but they're pastel colors.
Uh-huh.
And this community has never ever seen pastel colors before. And so they don't know what to do. They're confused.
It sounds like a lot of communities here.
That's right.
Yeah. I've shared on the podcast that I had the honor of touring the beautiful nation of El Salvador last fall with Clowns Without Borders. And it was wonderful. We traveled from one end of the country to the other, and we're in their cities and in some very rural communities. One of the interesting things was that you're not going to believe this, but I stood out. People knew that I wasn't from El Salvador. I mean, I don't understand how they knew that, but they did. And I remember going into there was a Walmart and a Super Selector was their other grocery store, and people just stopping and gawking and staring. And my fellow troop mates who were from Guatemala and El Salvador, they're like, "Oh, they recognize you from your performance," and I'm like, I don't think so.
I had a similar experience years ago. My friend and I went to Morocco, and we stood out because, Nigeria was in the middle of there was a World Cup going on, Soccer World Cup, and Nigeria was actually doing quite well in the World Cup. And they recognized us as being different, but also as being from Nigeria. The first person who met us said, where are you from? And we said, we're from Nigeria. And by the end of the day, everybody in the town knew we were from Nigeria. So everywhere we went, they would hail us. They would, hi, as if we were the footballers, as if we were the champions. So that was very exciting. But also, obviously we stood out, but it was in a nice way.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was funny when I was down in El Salvador and it's getting all this attention for standing out and being different. But it's not that way for everyone. It's not, there are a lot of people who might move into a neighborhood and they're different and they're not greeted as a champion footballer or as this odd guy with blue eyes. There's a lot of suspicion. Mm-hmm. And it's a very uncomfortable experience for a lot of people.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Especially now, there's just so much. It just seems that there's so much more fear, so much more anxiety, so much more mistrust. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know about you, but things just feel very different.
They really do, and again. One of the things that I noticed when I was in El Salvador was that, and they've just gone through this amazing transformation where they had suffered from gang violence for decades. And the president, in a controversial way, kind of solved that problem. And now it's one of the safest countries in the Americas. And I got the sense that there was a lot of community spirit that I felt there. And I remember commenting to one of my troop mates was that, and also my wife when I came home, was that it felt like the United States felt when I was growing up. It was community and there were other things, but I agree with you. I think that there's we know that there's a lot more anxiety, and especially when our kids. Why do you think that might be?
It's difficult to tell. I mean, I know certainly in the United States, it might be because of the political situation. Mm-hmm. And that just really feels different from the way it did years ago when, there are different political parties, but it just seems that everybody's up in arms now. And I'm not really quite sure why. Mm-hmm. And, with social media and being able to watch the news, being able to watch live streams of things that are happening in real time, I think, the world, we see things happening around the world, and I think some of those things are scary as well, and they really impact our lives even more than we think. So people, because we can see so much happening around the world, in other countries, in other places, in other towns and states in the United States, and everything seems immediate within, like they're happening right before us. I think people, they're more, their feelings are heightened, and their, sentiments are heightened, and, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. People are just, maybe for that reason, they're scared. I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with you. Certainly the media, and, there's a saying in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's one reason we don't see feel-good stories. That's one reason no one was covering the Indie Author Summit, because there was no chance of anybody getting stabbed or shot. It was just people coming together to support each other.
Yes.
As, if there's a hint of possible violence, then it's all over the news.
It's all over the news. And I think that's the thing. People, there's just so much more focus on bad things in the news, and everything is imbalanced. There's an imbalance there because you're not really seeing a lot of the good stuff, or, all the good stuff.
Yeah. I do want to talk about what parents can talk about with their kids as they're reading the primary colors. But what we were just talking about, understanding how the media works, I think that's something that's very important for us to share with our kids and help them understand that, the people who are putting out these stories, they have an agenda behind them. They're trying to get you to watch so they can sell commercials. And if they think that highlighting the danger and the tragedy is going to get more viewers, they're going to do that, even if it means it scares us and gives us a warped perception of what's really going on.
Yes, I mean, and I think we do need to talk to our children about these, because even if we don't like to think about it, they are exposed to these images. They are on social media. They are watching the news, and in those days when I was a child, I mean, we didn't even have a TV. I think I mentioned to you in one of the previous podcasts that we had, but we were out playing and climbing trees and all that, and just having fun. But children are exposed to so much more now. And I think we as parents, we need to guard against some of the things that they're seeing, and also encourage them, let's have family time together. Some of the things that you're trying to promote, Jed, reading together with your kids, the simple things of life.
Yeah.
Let's share a story. Let's read a book. We don't, let's try and keep a distance from all these things that are happening.
Yeah.
And that's scary, which I actually really don't. They're so immediate, so it seems as if we're involved, but they're not really. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we don't have to be scared. We don't have to be involved in everything that's going on, all the brouhaha around us.
Right.
We can focus on our family lives and on our reading and on spending time together, and those are the most important things.
Yeah. Yes, I agree, especially with our young kids. So as families are reading this lovely book, The Primary Colors, what specific kind of conversations do you think that reading this book will generate between families?
So I think people will talk about the importance of acceptance, of being open to new ideas, new people, new concepts. I think will generate discussions about how we present ourselves, how people see us. There's a portion in the book where the children get together and they pray. They talk about, imaginary talk about faith and what prayer can do. The power of prayer. And it talks about, we can talk about diversity, how the world is better for having different kinds of people.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that I loved talking to my kids about when we were celebrating diversity and learning about different cultures through books was that, yes, while these people may look different than us and speak a different language and do have different customs and foods, at the end of the day, we're all part of one beautiful human family.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with, and those are the common bonds that we share, being, we have so much more in common than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Morenike, I had the pleasure of being at the International Children's Book Festival in Bologna, Italy, back in March of this year.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was a wonderful time. You can't believe how big the children's book industry is. When I'm talking to authors and they say, well, how many kids' books are published every year? And maybe a couple hundred. It's like, no, thousands and thousands and thousands. We were at a hotel away from the fair, and staying in the hotel with us was a contingent of publishers and authors from Africa, from
really?
a number of different countries, and they were being hosted by the Italian government. And I had some very interesting conversations with, especially with a publisher from Nigeria who told me that they have a great tradition of oral storytelling in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Rwanda, all throughout the continent, but they don't have a tradition of reading books aloud as a family. Is that something that you're aware of and can comment on why you think that might be?
I had never really thought about that, but because my mother read to my brother and I when we were children. I remember cutting up with her reading the Arabian Nights. To read from the Arabian Nights, and she had this big old book in her library, and the original Arabian Nights is a great big book, and I remember the musty and mysterious smell of the pages, so she read to us and read with us. But I think you're right. I don't think parents generally read to their children. I think children read books, but I think children read the books, and the parents do their own reading or do their own thing. So, but it's something that I hadn't really thought about. I just imagined that it would happen in other families. But I think now that you've mentioned it, I think you may be right that, the person who told you that may have a point.
Yeah.
But I don't have any personal experience of that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I suppose if you're, and of course, families that just share oral tradition together are giving their kids lots of the same benefits that kids get from when we're reading. There's no magic from where the words are coming from. If they're coming from our imagination or from the pages of a book, somebody else's imagination, spending time telling stories, sharing stories, talking about stories with our kids is so valuable and is so beneficial to our kids.
Right. And oral tradition, the essence of oral tradition is that you're passing down stories that have been passed down through generations. So, they might not even be a story that you imagine, but a story that maybe your parents told you or some elders told you, and you're passing those stories down to your children. Yeah. So, yes, and as you said, it's just the form. So, yes, we read, reading a book. Now we also, we have ebooks. So we read electronic books and we read, paper books, but then we also have people read to us or tell us a story without actually reading from anything. So it's just different forms of storytelling.
Yeah. Ebooks, I love ebooks, but the problem with them is you don't get that musty smell that you get reading Arabian Nights. Yeah,
you don't, do you?
No, not at all. Morenike, have you had a chance to sit down and think about all the families that have snuggled up together reading your books and the gifts that you've given to all those families around the world?
Yeah, I think about that, and my goal is really to have families all over the world doing that, just snuggling up and reading as a family, reading those books. That's my dream, and that really is the essence of my dream. That my books will bring people together, and they'll read those books and have family time and talk about those books and laugh and share experiences, and those books will bring out memories and the books that they can relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I absolutely believe that families are going to love the primary colors, and we should tell them where they can go to find out more about this new book and all of your other books?
There'll be information on my website. I will be putting that on my website very shortly. And I'm also going to be doing a pre-book sales very soon. Actually, on October 22nd, I'm going to be launching my pre-book sales or my pre-publication sales of books. And I will send you that information so that you can post that on your website so people can access that. But it's going to be done through backakit.com. And very soon I'm going to be circulating and posting about that. And they can go to Backakit to learn more about my new book and be able to place their orders as from October 22nd.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Primary Colors. Our guest has been Morenike Oyenusi. My friend, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Ed. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, through the magic of technology, we are going to return to November 13th, 2018, when we had a chance to sit down with the one and only Candace Cameron Bure. I'm curious. You mentioned that writing a children's book was a lifelong dream. What was it about writing a children's book that was so important for you?
Well, ever since I have 3 kids, and it really has been one of my favorite things, my favorite pastimes now to do with my children. I loved reading with them. It was such special moments, whether we were sitting on the floor, on the couch, or in bed before, they would go to sleep. I would always read them stories. I loved looking at beautifully illustrated books with them. And it was a time that we could use our imaginations together. We could be silly. We could talk in character voices reading books. We could learn to read together when they were really young. And then, there's that moment when they can read and they read to you. And there are just so many special memories that I have, but it was something I would do daily with my children to read to them. And it wasn't just for the educational purposes. It was just like such bonding time and such a special time together. So ever since my children were born, I was reading to them when they were infants. Just as soon as they came out of the womb, I'm like, I'm reading books to you. So that's when it started. I'm like, one day I would love to write a book or write several books that I could read to my kids. And now really, I'm going to be reading my books to my grandchildren. Because it's been, it's 20 years later. But I just think reading is so, it's just so special, and it's a special time. And whether it's your own children or nieces and nephews, grandchildren, it's something very different to me than even, just sitting on a computer or watching television together, because there's an imaginative aspect to it. And even though the words and the pictures are there for you, you can still be even more creative than the book, and it can spark conversation, and it's just this wonderful tool to bond.
Yeah. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. In the meantime, please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedly Magic on X. We have a great YouTube channel where you can find our Drawing With Your Kids and STEM is Family Fun videos. It's youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And of course, our website, readingwithyourkids.com. So many great things to go there. Lots and lots and lots of content. You can read our full review of Brad Mason's brand new book, Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we'll start by thanking our guest, Brad Mason. Be sure to check out Charlie Chaloosy Refuses to Snoozy. And, of course, we want to thank Morenike Oyenusi. Please be sure to check out The Primary Colors. Hey, I also want to thank Candace Cameron Bure for coming on the show back in 2018. Her appearance alongside LeVar Burton's appearance really helped launch reading with your kids, and we really are appreciative of them. I'm also very thankful for the amazing team I have, starting with today's co-host for our first interview, Rayling Tang, Rory Brady, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.